Broadcasting live from the moon and back, this is The Coin Chat, the most trusted voice for all things cryptocurrency. Each week we dissect an important issue and cut through the noise and misinformation out there in the world of blockchain, cryptocurrency, and ICOs, capturing the facts that truly matter to you that will give you an edge in this fast-moving emerging market. The who, what, where, when, and how of what you need to know in crypto to get ahead so you don't get left behind. Now here are your co-hosts, financial and crypto experts Yuri Cataldo and Steve Good.
Hey, this is Steve Good on the Coin Chat, back with David Atkinson for part 2 on our discussions on currency design versus fundraising, kind of versus building a business and where coins and tokenomics and currency design all kind of fit into this. So, David, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Cool. So last time when we got together, we talked about the first 5 of your 10 points. We thought we'd get through all 10. I think we were a bit ambitious. But do you want to just quickly read off what the first 5 were that we talked about? And then I'll put a link up above here so people can click over and check that out in case they want to know our riveting discussion on those first 5.
Absolutely. So yeah, there's a great intro discussion. And just to really summarize that, what we're looking at is designing a currency that is both fit for purpose for the fundraising mechanism you're choosing, as well as fit for purpose for building the economy that you want to build post-fundraising. No point building a currency that's great for fundraising and terrible for your economy, or vice versa. So That's what these questions are designed to tease out. The first one is generally, are you struggling with your token economics? And we talk through why people are, why people aren't. Then are your users your community? Does your business reward your users for efficient and value-added work? Can you describe the value of your business through your currency design? Does your currency design capture the value that you're creating? And does your business work better if your supply of currency is fixed, preset, or varies with demand?
Cool. Yeah, and we had some great discussions on that. So
yeah, and we're looking at the framework from, are you building a security? Are you building a fixed supply coin? Or are you building a community kind of coin? And then we kind of touched on the IEO, ICO, STO, and the different fundraising mechanisms.
Yeah. Cool. So let's jump in. So what was the 6th question you had now, or the 6th point?
Okay. So the 6th point is, are your users incentivized to hold, to exit early, or to use your currency?
Ooh. Well, that's a great question, because there's also another counterpoint to that, which is you're told you have to hold your coins and you're locked in and you can't do anything, which is not incentivizing and is not motivating and it's not rewarding. It's just, sorry, you have to hold your coins. Unfortunately, that's in the US a big problem because of this whole accredited investor thing. But I've also seen projects that are saying, sorry, you have to hold your coins and get locked 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year. So I'm throwing that at you too, because it's another consideration.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? I mean, I think that's sort of the big tension in the 2017, 2018, 2019 different fundraising strategies, where projects that might have raised seed funding last year are going public funding this year, but the rates are better in the public than the seed investors got, as well as the seed investors might have a lockup period.
Yeah, and I'm also seeing a lot of things where syndicates are basically demanding, 50%, 70%, 80% discount on coin price, which isn't new, but it's becoming much more transparent that that's going on because they want to flip the stuff. And that's, of course, where you get the big problem about the early stage crypto investors, many of which are, Asian, but not all of them, where you see these big blocks of people buying a, ridiculous amount of coins at 80% discount with the intention of flipping on the open on the market. And that goes back to your question of how do you incentivize people to hold coins? And if we look at projects like Theta Token, I mean, what they've done, which I really love, is the fact that they've got a dual token model, one where they have a token. They don't have a masternode project as such, but what they say is stake your tokens and you'll get rewarded with our fuel tokens that you can then use to run them and use them on the platform. So they're literally encouraging you to hold one so that you earn the other to spend it on the platform, which I really like because it's creating a mechanism of, reducing supply in one space in order to increase the supply and the usage on the other. And it's a really clever way to kind of dually incentivize as well people to behave and with the right mechanisms or ways. But of course, as we both know, if the coin starts tanking on the market, you're not going to sit there staking coins because you're probably more interested in, oh my God, it's dropping, I better get out. And that's, of course, doesn't help the situation. But reducing supply certainly will squeeze the market generally toward the upside rather than the downside.
Exactly. So, and this question really comes down to, again, like, what are you designing, both how you're attracting and raising funds and the economy that you're trying to build. So if you're incentivizing people to hold, then you're really trying to build security. People are investing, are participating to extract long-term value from what you're trying to build, or that you've got a mechanism for creating price inflation.
Yeah.
And so the whole example is really interesting because when people think about, say, like they talk about, well, can you make payments with Bitcoin or not? And technically, for me, it's not a technical question. It's a much more of a social question, because the social question comes down to is how do I feel about using this particular currency? How do I feel about using it for general use? And so we have, like, I'd say, the most successful tokens have captured psychologically or emotionally captured our hearts and made and helped us want to hold these particular coins.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because I mean I've talked in previous episodes about how do you start by raising awareness of a project? How do you get to the point where they invest, which is a 6-step process? And then there's kind of a 7th step, which people don't often talk about, which is going from investing to creating brand loyalty. And I always use Apple as a great example of that because awareness is there. Everyone knows Apple. And you don't have to go through the steps of trying to figure out if the product's kind of fit for you and whether it's relevant to your life and whether it's something you want to be a part of. You know, either I want Apple or I don't. It's as simple as that. And once you buy it, you're already loyal because you discover very quickly it integrates and it works together. And you can tell I'm an Apple person. But I wasn't an Apple person to start. But once I flipped, it was like immediate straight to loyalty. So what I see with a lot of these tokens is there's no loyalty creation being created. And if you don't create any form of loyalty to the brand, why would I hold the coins? My only interest is buy, flip, sell, flip, buy, flip, whatever. And if you look at what, I mean, dare I say, Tron has done with BitTorrent. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like Tron, and I know it's been called out as early days of a scam, and they copied other people's white papers, and they did a lot of things that probably shouldn't have done. But what they're doing right now by encouraging people to hold Tron to get free airdrops of BitTorrent tokens, and equally the way that they're trying to create this whole ecosystem with BitTorrent tokens to, you know, get people to buy the tokens and hold them. It's rather interesting because actually it's created some stability more than you would have expected. Most people are expecting BitTorrent tokens to go flying, but they created such a huge amount of them at such a low price that it's probably not going to go up that much. But equally, getting people to hold Tron tokens should actually squeeze the supply to drive the price up, which we haven't seen happen yet, but I suspect at some point you probably will. So just interesting examples of how people are trying to encourage loyalty to the brand, loyalty by holding coins, getting something by doing something. So, you know, it's like anything. If I'm going to do something for you, what are you going to do for me? And I like the idea that you're going to give me some sort of reward for holding on to the coins. Okay, that's cool. Can I use the coin for something? You can use them in the ecosystem. You know, you can participate and do other things. But a lot of projects just don't build the brand in. They don't bring the loyalty into it. It's they stop at invest, and then it's flip or buy more or flip or, you know, why would you hold? Because for me, the holding and staying loyal are connected. It's the same thing. It's either I'm loyal to the brand and the company or I'm just a trader.
Yep. And it's really interesting for me when we're thinking about organizations that are trying to create the conditions to hold is I'm waiting for the day where it's on CoinMarketCap, but it's because it's not the circulating supply that's interesting for me, because actually a lot of the cases, the circulating supply versus the total supply, the people who hold that gap want to be selling right now.
Yeah.
It's actually, it's
got to be the most painful part, right? All these guys that had 2-year lockups.
Exactly.
Now going, oh my God, I can finally sell my coins, and I wouldn't ever do it because it's down 90%.
Exactly. So it's actually the proportion of the supply that is in regular movement and the proportion of supply that's in consideration of moving. They're the interesting dynamics to factor in when you're thinking about a currency where the intention is to create a mechanism around holding, because you're right, in fixed supply world, that what you're trying to do is find different ways of constraining that supply under consideration to move.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I can hold, if I get benefits from making sure that I keep this in my wallet, then we're creating, within our fixed supply, we're creating all of these psychological mechanisms for price increases.
That's right.
What we're really trying to avoid, and this is where like the plague of, as people perceive, like the VC investment into crypto in 2018, get in the seed round and dump on the public sale so the retail investors carry the bags. This early exit design is really devastating for any crypto project.
Yeah.
So I think that we've seen much smarter designs this year, and the IEOs, from my sense, is limiting supply of fundraising and also putting fundraising within the exchange community. The IEOs are trying to solidify away from some of the early exit behavior and at least keep price strength. And then you get this final category, which is just some currencies are designed to be used. And then you can design in early upside into these currencies, but they are designed to be spent into existence. And it's just important to know where you stand. I think a lot of the top coins at the moment have this kind of sort of perversity where really they're now, we want to hold them because we can see the upside in holding, but some of them do have an ecosystem where it's important that you spend. Yeah. And so managing this tension, I think that's a really exciting part of the currency design process, is managing that tension. And I don't get it with complicated mathematics and all sorts of crazy formulas. I get it from going back to what's the intention of fundraising, the intention of economy, and how I'm structuring the fundamentals of the currency so that it will support whichever.
For sure. Yeah, it's always, you're always going to have people that want to just buy and sell. There are traders and there are people that are going to participate with the brand, and there's going to be people in between who kind of see it as opportunistic on some part. But I certainly think that rewarding people for participation and engaging them, not just in the products themselves, but engaging them in various ways to create a certain amount of loyalty and connection to the company, is also what creates community. And so much of tokenomics is also about community, and people often don't see that at all. They're just like, oh, our price is down, so we're going to shut our project. It's like, oh, please, I mean, give me a break. That's just pathetic. But I've seen it firsthand. I've showed you an email with that. It's like, people do this kind of weird stuff. They just don't even know why they're running their projects, and they get it wrong. Anyway, let's move to the next one because we've still got 4 more to go.
Yeah, so these will be quick. So can your reserve handle redemption costs and volumes? So
say it again. Can your reserves, right,
handle, effectively, can your reserves handle redemption? Can your reserves handle a run on your currency?
Well, if you're talking about buying your own coins back, then your reserves have to be in Ether or Bitcoin. But if you're talking about selling coins, everyone has reserves to do that. That's the problem. They only have reserves that go one way most of the time.
Which is absolutely fine until your productive economy kicks in.
Correct.
And this is where the reserves become really important, because most utility tokens, as we know them, so the reserves are fine if we're talking about a security token. But if we're talking about a utility design, whether it's a coin or kind of a community currency, and it's effectively a pre-purchase for activity on an ecosystem, then when people are going to want to come in and redeem.
Yeah.
And that's when you need to be able to make sure your reserves are really handy. So there's quite a nice example at the moment with the Binance coin. So it went from being a transaction...
the whole token, the token burn part of it, or which part of the BNB part?
Well, no, the utility actually. So because it was originally a transaction fee
correct
coin, I spent a time with a lot of projects in 2018 that were trying to do various forms of investment platforms, blockchain style investment platforms, and redemption was always a critical issue. And so what Binance Coin did really interestingly was by stabilizing the coin around transaction fees and building